Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to OpenMicVO for Sunday, July 1st. Happy Canada Day to those of you who are joining us from Canada. I'm sitting in Toronto, and it's been a great, hot holiday Sunday here. So glad you're able to join us tonight. We'll be getting together to talk about all things voiceover. So if you have any questions at all with regards to furthering your voiceover career, whether it's performance related, perhaps it's about your home studio, perhaps it's a software question, maybe it's about getting new business for in your voiceover career. All of those topics are open for conversation tonight. Just a couple of ground rules. The first one is I certainly want you to participate actively in tonight's conversation. But if you're not actively participating in the conversation, if you could please mute yourself at your end, that would be awesome. It's a little green microphone icon. I think it's green anyway, in the lower left-hand corner of your Zoom meeting window. Just click it and it mutes you. Click it again and you're unmuted when you want to ask a question or offer a comment. The second thing I wanted to mention was that we record OpenMicVO and I post it to YouTube just because there's some people that want to attend on Sunday evenings and can't always make it live. So we will be recording and posting. So keep that in mind. If you are going to offer any information that might be sensitive or confidential, just remember that once it gets posted to YouTube, I can't control where it ends up. And the third thing is that we're all professionals here. Some of us have just been at it longer than others. So regardless of whether you are brand new to the business or you've been in it for 30 years, I want you to feel very comfortable here and no judgment. There's no such thing as a silly question to those of you who are new to the business. Go ahead and ask away, and we'll do our best to answer for you. So with that said, I'm going to unmute people, and let's get started. So once you see that you're unmuted, you can either mute yourself, again, at your end, or if you want to be the first to ask us a question tonight or to offer some comment, that is awesome. Please feel free to get us started.
Okay, Graham, I'll start here. I have a question for those who do audiobooks. On your profile on ACX, this is specific to ACX, how many examples, or I guess for lack of, no, examples, not demos, but how many samples would you say is a good number to have in your profile?
Well, I noticed that James is here tonight, and James, I know you're very active on ACX. What are your thoughts on how many samples do you put into your ACX profile?
Only about 6 or 7. More than 7 is really kind of pushing it. People aren't going to scroll down that far to listen to them, for one thing. A lot of people put too many up. I attended an ACX event at Audible Studios about, I guess it was 2 years ago, and they asked us to submit a link to our profile pages, and they actually gave us a critique on our profile pages. And if you had more than 6 samples up there, they said you had too many. And this is coming from ACX. So 6 samples. What the trend is nowadays is to put samples up, but not label them as the book that you've done, but label them as, say, male-female narration or male-female dialogue or action sequence or you know, what is taking place during the sample rather than saying where it came from. You can put that in the notes on the other side, on the right side of the screen.
How about genre?
Yeah, you can do that too. I mean, you can say it's nonfiction or fiction. What might be history, might be a lot of that kind of stuff, though, is also when you put the samples up, there is a way to say that, you know, whether it's history or whether it's political or something like that. But yeah, give any kind of clues as to what the sample is in the labeling of it, rather than saying, you know, this is from A Tale of Two Cities or something like that.
Excellent. Thank you, James.
Yes, James, thank you. Appreciate that. Who else has got a question for us tonight, or a comment that they want to add? I have a question I'd like to throw out to people, and that is, now that we're deep into summer vacation mode, how many of you, when you travel on summer vacation, actually take a portable recording setup with you? Like either you record using your iPad, or you take along a microphone and an audio interface. How many people actually take along a portable recording setup when they're on vacation? And what does that setup consist of? Hey, Dave.
I did. Hi, everybody. Hope you had a good week. Hope you're going to have a good week coming up. I used to travel a lot, 30, 40 different countries a year. And I tried to keep my hand in voiceover the whole time. Part of it, I could use it for professional purposes and on site and what I was doing. And then I would do auditions sporadically, I guess. And what I used was a nice condenser and an AD and a laptop. The hard part was making the booth, and you got creative, and occasionally I would rent booths if I was somewhere like Hobart, Tasmania, or Sydney, or even Fiji or something like that. There's always a radio studio around. They're pretty reasonable. A lot of times I would do trades for studio time, but most of the time it was cushions and stuff like that to make a little sound fort, and that's how I did it. It wasn't complicated. It wasn't necessarily, I would rent studio space for final product, but for auditions, that's how I did it. I kept it really simple, and it's even better now.
Yeah, I've become very proficient taking the hotel ironing board and an extra comforter that you ask the housekeeping people for, and formulating a little fort using the ironing board as the structure for it. So. Did you have like a Pelican case, or did you have some sort of special case that you kept your equipment in, or did you just kind of throw it in your briefcase with you?
Yes. Pelican cases where you can make your own foam stuff for some stuff. The foam boxes where it comes with the foam and you pick it out according to the profile of whatever you're going to put in it.
Yeah, that's what I've done as well. I use that pick and pluck Pelican foam cases, and they work really well.
But now you've got the MicPort Pro. I mean, you can fit that in your shirt pocket. And I just hooked a guy up with a USB mic to do some podcasting. It's come a long, long way in the last 7 or 8 years. A travel rig to me it used to be an engineering mountain you had to climb to be able to do decent audio on the road. And now it's so much easier. There's so many options for everybody.
It sure is a lot easier than it used to be. There's no doubt. So once again, the question on the table is, how many people take along a portable recording setup when on vacation, considering we're headed deep into vacation time? And what does your portable recording setup consist of?
Hey, Graham.
Hey, Larry Hudson. How are you tonight?
Good. I'll give you my quick answer.
Please.
416, AGO3, little table mic stand, lots of pillows and blankets. And I haven't used the ironing board yet. I usually use the suitcase stand.
Yeah.
Because it creates a little bit smaller of a cubby, but that's it.
Fantastic. So those of you who might not be familiar, when Larry says a 416, that's a Sennheiser MKH 416 microphone. The Yamaha AGO3, which is this really adorable little mixer that works as a converter, like an analog to digital converter as well, and then into your laptop. And Larry, what software do you use when you're traveling? Do you use the same stuff you use at home?
Yeah, I mean, I have both. I have Audacity and Adobe Audition. I do have like my RX6. If I need it, I have that on as well as Source Connect on an iLock. So right. I just take that with me, and I'm using a Mac Air on the road, which, interestingly, Most of the time when you buy a Mac Air, it only has 128 gigabytes of memory. I purchased from OWC, which stands for Other World Computing, or Mac Sales, for I think it was about $400. I bought a 1 terabyte hard drive, SSD, and I replaced it in about 35 minutes myself. And I'm not a wizard. I just followed the instructions and watched the YouTube video. And it made a huge difference, because we even, like you have anything of any size, everything kind of starts shutting down when you're in your last little bit of memory on on the computer. So I went from 125 to 1 terabyte for about $400.
And is it a fairly new MacBook Air, or is this
2015?
I'm still using my MacBook Air from, I think it's 2012 or a 2013, and it works just fine. So
yeah, as long as you have it. I just didn't have enough memory. That's, I only had 125 gigabytes of memory. And just, I don't know, for some reason, like if I tried to do anything with video, like something from one of my classes or something, I just couldn't get it done. So I just expanded it. And the other thing I did, just since we're talking a little bit of tech, and I know that wasn't the topic, but I have a Mac Mini that runs my studio, and that is also a 2015. And I took the spinning drive out of that for $365 and put a 1 terabyte solid state drive in. And I literally took the whole thing apart, went really slow, again, followed the instructions, looked at the YouTube video. It was flawless. And now my Mac Mini is blazing fast compared to what it was.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Thanks so much, Larry.
You are welcome.
Who else has got a portable recording setup that they use when they're on the road? I'm really interested to hear what yours consists of.
Hey, Graham.
Hey, Craig.
Yeah, I was using a 416 with a Scarlett Solo. But what I do different to most people is I take some PVC piping in my suitcase, and I've got some connectors, and instead of using the luggage rack or the ironing board, it makes pretty much a ready-made fort by just plugging them in together, and it's a nice size, and you put the pillows inside it and the duvet on top, the comforter on top, and it works really well.
How smart is that? So you've got these little your own portable little PVC booth that you carry with you.
Absolutely. And I cut them just perfectly to fit inside my suitcase.
So, like, how tall is it when you, like, how much room do you have in it when it's sitting on the desk in your hotel room?
It's I'm just looking at the pipes just now. Actually, they're about 3 foot, so it's about a 3 foot by 3 foot space. I don't want it to be too big, obviously.
Well, but that's still pretty substantial. That's awesome. John Ford saying, I just hope the TSA doesn't think they're pipe bombs.
Every time, because obviously I check that bag, and near enough every single time there's a TSA note to say, yeah, we were looking inside your case.
I'm sure.
As long as we're on hotel room ideas, I have if the paintings, if the art can come off the walls, those can be used as well as a framework for a studio.
Very good idea. I tend to stay in cheap hotels, so they're screwed to the walls in my case, but you must be staying in those fancy places.
Well, sometimes, but even in the cheap hotels, there's sometimes a way to pull them off the walls, and it's just another option.
Absolutely. Anybody else have a portable recording setup that they travel with? I'm curious to hear what your recording setup is all about. And also, of course, we're open to any new questions that you might have as well. Also want to mention that if you are shy, or if you are in a situation where you don't have access to a microphone for tonight and you're just listening in, feel free to type any question you might have into the Q&A box, which you can find at the bottom of your Zoom meeting window. And feel free to type any questions you have into there as well. Anybody else have a travel setup they want to talk to us about? Really curious to hear about it. Or if you have a new question, new comment, that's welcome as well. Just while I'm thinking about it, Larry Hudson, your new class in Audacity must be starting up soon, or is it Adobe Audition?
Yeah, we're right in the middle of Audacity. Adobe Audition starts July 30th.
July 30th. Okay, so anyone interested in learning more about Adobe Audition, Larry Hudson, he's the man when it comes to Audition and Audacity. And I haven't taken one of Larry's classes, but I have it on good authority from people I know who have, that his is the most thorough class offered out there when it comes to learning these various software packages. So Adobe Audition, July 30th, and Larry, it's VO Heaven.
Well, that one's actually being, I'll put a link in. It's being done through Open Coaches.
That's right. That's right.
So I'll get you a link for that. I can do that really quick. I'll throw it in the box.
Fine. Thank you.
And thank you for letting everybody know.
And that's Chuck Duran and Stacey Aswad, right?
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Very cool. Who else has got a question for us tonight?
Hey, Graham,
if I could pick up on what Larry was mentioning about upgrading the specs on I think it was a MacBook Air.
Right.
It would be a piece of advice that I would give to somebody, just in general, but especially for VO, if you want to save your bucks or your loonies. By the way, happy Canada Day, everybody. If you want to save your bucks for other stuff, it's a good strategy. And I was just looking in the group chat box. The newer Macs are the RAM and the hard drive are soldered in, so you can't switch them out. It's one of the benefits of the older MacBook Pros is that you can switch out hard drives, and just like Larry did, you can max out the RAM and you can keep them updated. They are sort of future-proof, and it's a cheap way to get into a really nice quality Mac system without having to spend the big bucks up front.
So you're suggesting people go and buy a used MacBook Air. Is that what you're saying?
Or a MacBook Pro, one that you can take the battery out easily, you can take the hard drive out, you can pull out the inside, and as you can go on Make and download the information.
The 2011 MacBook Pros go for an i5 or an i7. The 2011 ones are upgradable with both the SSD, uses a standard 2.5-inch SSD, and the RAM is also upgradable. So, you get an i7 and upgrade. You could probably find a decent i7, 13-inch for somewhere around $500, and another $100 for the RAM upgrade, and around $100 or $200, depending on how big you want the drive to be. For $700, you got a great machine.
Fantastic. That's great info. Thanks, John. And it sounds like
an Apple certified technical coordinator.
Oh, so you know your stuff.
I fix them all the time.
Thank you so much.
John, let me ask you that: Are those laptops? Have they plateaued in their value on the downside? In that they are upgradable, and it's not that difficult to do. Is it? There's still quite a bit of value in those laptops, isn't it?
Yeah, there is, because you're still dealing with the same chip architecture, either an i5 or an i7. Those are quad-core chips. Go for the i7. If you use something like Pro Tools with a lot of plugins. Definitely want as much RAM as possible. Those max out at 16 gigs. They won't go anything above that. And throw in a 500 gig SSD. I mean, literally for $700-800, you'll have a machine that will last you for quite a long time. The thing to look out for with the used machines is water damage. Make sure you take them apart before you buy them, and make sure there's no water stains anywhere on the logic board.
Great advice. Thanks.
Who else has got a question for us tonight?
Hey, Graham, it's Craig again.
Hey, Craig.
It's not really a question. I just want to point something out. 416s have been mentioned twice already this evening, and I just want to tell everybody I just got mine from BSW, Broadcast Supply World, and I used Joe Cipriani's code Santa Joe, so I got it for $7.99. So if anyone's looking for a 416, $7.99 for a brand new one from BSW.
That code still works?
It still works.
That is amazing, because that was, I don't know, 2 years ago that Cipriano
Yes,
set
indeed.
that up. So what is the code again?
Santa Joe.
So for those of you who might be in the market for a Sennheiser MKH 416, $7.99 for a new one is an unheard of price. I think they are at least $9.99, and in many cases they're going for more than that. So $7.99 is a phenomenal price if you happen to be in the marketplace. So Broadcast Supply Warehouse, BSW, and the code is Santa Joe. And maybe we could, Craig, maybe you could take a second just to type that into the chat box. And folks, what I do is at the end of the session tonight, I get a transcript of the chat, and I attach the chat to the show notes in YouTube. So if you ever need any information from any of our shows, any of the stuff that was discussed and typed in the chat box, you can generally find it in the show notes on YouTube. Fantastic. Who else has got a question for us tonight? Still unmuting a couple of people here, some latecomers. So glad to have you join us. Thank you. Don't forget, you can use the Q&A box as well if you are, for some reason, unable to use a microphone tonight or a phone to speak with us live. You can always, if you're just listening in, you can always type any questions you have in the Q&A box. So I actually have a question I'd like to throw out there. I have recently been trying to do at least 5 auditions a day. So 25 auditions a week. And those are either coming through my agents or from voice123.com. I'm curious how, of those of you out there who are kind of active non-union voice actors, how often, like how many auditions a week are you typically doing and sending out into the world out there?
All over the map, but generally I try to do a minimum of 10 from all the sources per day.
10 per day, so 50 a week.
Yeah, it can be more, but that's about it.
That is that's interesting, because I'm really wondering whether I should be upping my game and trying to get more of them out. So I'm kind of in this funny place where I record auditions, but then I second guess myself, and I don't know whether they are good enough to actually submit or not. So I end up recording a lot more auditions than I actually ever send out and submit. Wolf says that he does at least 20, and I assume that's a week. At least 20, give or take. Who else out there is active? Yeah, Wolf says at least 20 weekly. Who else out there is, actively auditioning on a weekly basis, non-union, and how many auditions are you doing on a weekly basis?
Yeah, I'm the same as Dave. I do about 10 a day, depending on what's out there.
Fantastic. And those are primarily, Craig, coming to you through online casting sites?
Yeah, my agent in Houston doesn't send me as much as they used to, but yeah, mostly Voices123 and Voices.com still. Do
you find that the agent in Houston, is it because of the voice bank situation that they're not sending as much stuff? They're not getting access to as much stuff?
Yeah. What happened is Pastoring and Bosby were using voice bank, and then they moved over to, It's not VO Planet. The other one.
Oh, the hub.
The hub.
Yeah.
Voice casting hub. So since they've gone there, really, I have not seen anything. So I had a meeting with them about a month ago, and I said, look, what's going on? And they said that there's still a lot of issues with the hub, and they're trying to get ironed out. So, but that they're not really getting any other work at this moment in time. And obviously, I'm kind of unique in Houston. I'm a British voice, so there's not as much work for me anyway. But they're not getting as much work as we used to.
Well, the work that is available for you, though, you're landing it.
Well, as much as I can, anyway.
Fantastic.
I had the reverse, Craig, in that when I was spending a lot of time in the Kiwi and Aussie markets, the voice, the auditions and the gigs I got were, as an American voice, it was always a cop for some reason. There was gunplay involved generally with the American voice. It was a funny little quirk, that their perception of Americans and the role that Americans play. There was always gunplay involved in the script. I found that hilarious.
Question from Dave. E-learning. He has a specific interest in e-learning. How do you go about finding e-learning gigs? Are there online casting sites specific to e-learning? To the best of my knowledge, I don't think that there is, but I know there's a fair amount of e-learning projects available on Voice123 and voices.com. Or are there any production houses specifically known for doing e-learning projects for their clients? It's a good question. I know that there are conferences specifically set up for e-learning producers. And whether it's, there's all kinds of titles for people who produce e-learning, but there are conferences available for these people. And I think if you just did a Google search on, e-learning production or e-learning producers or e-learning conferences, that the names of those conferences should probably pop up fairly readily.
And Graham, I just Googled, what did I Google? I Googled e-learning production houses, and a ton came up. And here are the top 10 e-learning content developing companies for 2017. And there's a list. So it's not hard to find, given that e-learning is the largest growing sector of the business right now. And now's a good time to get in before robots take over. And I'm on staff with Honeywell Corp as an e-learning narrator. And the way I got that was just through a referral. But that's called, keep expanding. But man, Google, you can find anything, and you just want to present your e-learning demo and have it be nice and pretty and not too overproduced. And I'm sure you'll find some work. But I think e-learning is probably the number one job type or genre on the pay-to-plays for sure.
There's a lot of stuff on Voice123, I know for sure. So,
thanks, Larry.
Wolf says, Larry, I, for one, welcome our robot overlords.
Ooh, it's pretty scary. If you've heard some of the virtual audio these days, man, they are putting a lot into it where they can actually get nuance. I was talking to Mark Cashman about this a couple of weeks ago, and he goes, "Man, I'm scared because I do a lot of e-learning." Anyway, it's just the business is going to continue to change, and the more loose that you are and flexible and able to make those on a dime turns, the better you're going to be for sure.
So, Larry, do you think that, are we talking a year, 3 years, 5 years? When is it that AI, or this very sophisticated text-to-speech technology that Google and others are developing, do you like, what's the time frame, do you think, for it actually having a dramatic impact on some of our, lower end voiceover work?
I say 3 to 5. It's sadly, I say 3 to 5 because I've heard some of the latest stuff and it was like, holy moly. And remember, the reason why that's so appealing to the client is, basically they pick a type of voice. They pick a kind of they can even get it down to, snarky or, empathetic. They literally, that's what their final step in working it all out. And literally they're just going to pour it into an app and it's going to spit it out for them. And, there might be little adjustments they need to make, but I know that it's getting really good with Google because that's what I heard. So I would say, just knowing how technology moves along and what's happened in the last 3 to 5 years, I say 3 to 5. That's what I think. And it's going to start making an impact. It depends on price for people, for the client.
I'm still not too worried because Alexa still doesn't understand what the hell I'm saying anyway. So.
Hey, listen, you better watch out, buddy. You keep staying in Texas, you're going to lose that accent.
Sorry, just unmuting a few more people here. So who else has got a question for us tonight?
I had a question.
Hello, Joy.
Hi. It's only tangentially related to voiceover. I need to get my voiceover website up, but the problem is I'm still, it's going to need to be changed eventually. I'm working through several books on what I want in a website and how to have it best portray me and going through the voiceover achiever branding and all of that. But at the same time, I don't want to wait to finish all of that to get my website up. But I'm wondering if I put a website up, then I have to change it. What does that process look like? Is there any way to work on your website while it's still up and functioning as something else? How long would it have to be down?
Use WordPress.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm thinking of doing, but I'm going to have to change the layout. And can I have a different version that I'm working on while one is up?
There's a couple of ways to do that. Are you using a Mac or a PC?
PC.
Okay.
I'm still on the dark side.
That's all right. Hang on. Let me look at something. I'll get back to you.
Okay.
I know that if you use Wix, you can do it on the fly. I change my website nearly daily, at least once a week anyway. So,
okay.
And all you do is you go into the Wix site, you go to edit your site, and then you do all of the editing, and then right at the end you say, do you want to upload it to your website? And it's instantaneous. The website isn't down at all during the process. Okay.
And I want to do my website, but I don't want to use the templates on WordPress. I have my own idea of what I want, and I understand Wix is very flexible that way, isn't it?
Wix is, in my opinion, Wix is a fantastic platform. The music player that they have, the video player that they have, all the analytics it has, and just the ease that you can edit things, change things on the fly. They do give you some templates you can work from, but in general, you can do anything you want. And you can even, if you really wanted to, you can write HTML code on Wix now.
Okay. Yeah, I have a friend who's a web developer, but I'm going to do most of it myself. So being able to do that would be good, but I definitely don't want to have to. Does anyone know for WordPress how difficult it is to go without a template at all to make your own?
Well, you have to have some kind of template.
Okay.
With WordPress. So, but there are like 18 million templates.
I know,
out there.
But then I have to look through them to find the one.
The one I ended up using was one, and I use it on a couple of different websites. It's one that was built for musicians. So you just plug your videos, you plug your audio into it, and I can't remember the name of that one. Hang on, look.
And for WordPress, there's also kind of frameworks that you can use rather than an actual template with a skin on it. There's frameworks that you can use that and then build your own template from that. But I guess my question, Joy, is for the amount of effort you're going to have to invest in creating this website that you're thinking of, wouldn't you be better off just doing more auditions? And I'm a big believer in that getting something up that's 90% right is better
Right.
than waiting for a year to get something up that's 100% right.
Right. And that's kind of where I've come to. I'm just wondering, if I put something together, what does that mean? I like to count the cost before I do it. And I think I need to get something up. I just want to know what I'm getting into.
I do know people that have done websites through Wix and some of these other kind of, drag and drop development platforms and have been very happy with the outcomes. Then the next level of complexity is you start using platforms like WordPress. And then beyond that, you start doing your own custom programming. And that's a lot. That's a lot to bite off, I think.
I just threw out the link of the template, one of the templates that I use from a company called Audio Theme. That's audiotheme.com.
Okay.
Thanks for that, John. And John, were you able to discover whether she's able to work in a sandbox on developing something while?
Yeah, there is a way to do it. It's basically, I can't remember the name of it. It's like Mappy or something like that. But what it does is you create a virtual web server on your computer, right? You can install WordPress on it, templates, whatever, or you could just do HTML, and you work on that offsite on your computer, and then you upload it to your website via SFTP.
I'll have to listen to that again in the replay.
Let me see if I can find a link for that. Hang on.
Yeah. You know what, Graham? This is Larry. I'm so with you. I have a site right now that's a Wix site. I change my site all the time because of the classes and all that stuff. And I don't love my website. It's 5 years old. It's time to upgrade. And so I've been in the process. One day I started working on Wix and looking for a template and going, because I already kind of have my branding logo and the type of graphics that I want to use.
Yeah.
And I just, at that moment, I went, you know what? I don't want to do this. I'd rather spend my time, like Graham said, doing auditions. So I've been interviewing. I've got 3 different web designers that are offering different things. And I just need to make a decision about who I'm going to go with. And I'm going to not cheap out on it. But if you're just starting out, you don't, we're not judging you by your website unless it's horrible.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we don't count anyway, because the truth is the possibility of you actually booking work from your website is less than 10%. And if somebody, as long as it's professional, as long as it has a good story, it tells a little bit about you, it has all your demos on the front page, make it easy to get to. It's just like a calling card. Listen, I don't think going and spending $100, for 100 cards is a great idea, because you know what we all do with your business card, right? We take the information off it, and we throw it in the trash can. Well,
Right.
And to some degree, the website is sort of the same. I mean, you want it to represent you and be professional, but man, if you're starting out, just get something up so you got it up. And
Right.
then when you're working and you're making money, then it's time to invest, and maybe you're going to spend between $700 and $1,500 to have somebody build your website. Because just like kind of everybody was, relating to, your website, like everything else, is a living, breathing, ultimately always changing thing. And who you are today, when I did my website 4 years ago, it was great. now it doesn't represent me at all. So it's time to change. And, had I spent $1,500 on that one, I would have been kind of upset.
Right.
It's not that big a deal, just as long as it's professional and it has the information you need. There are certain things that really matter in this business, like having a great demo and having your story, like knowing what your profile is. Like if we were to describe your voice, like that whole thing about, this is what I do. And, I have a whole thing that I developed years ago, and I'm still using the same thing because even though my voice has changed a little bit, it all still plays to that. And those things are important so you can describe who you are. But
Yeah.
the website is not like live and die. It's got to be good. It's got to be professional. That's about it.
Okay.
That offline website development platform is MAMP. I put the link up
Yay.
at mamp.info.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
I noticed that Doug is on tonight, and Doug, I consider you like the best brander in the voiceover business, and I say that sincerely. I'm curious what you think about the importance of a website. I mean, how important in your overall marketing strategy is your website, and do you get lots of work from your website as a result of it being as good as it is?
Yeah, hi, Graham. And let me say, first of all, that by calling me a great brander, it reminds me that I'm a big fan of your low standards. Thank you very much. No, totally kidding. And I'm going to write this time down because it's Sunday, July 1st, 8:41 p.m. One of the very first times that I have disagreed with my good friend Larry Hudson. Hi there, Larry. But not completely. I think the answer to your question, how important is a website, really depends on how you market yourself.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If you're on the pay-to-play sites, the chances that a client is going to end up at your website are pretty nil, Well, I imagine most of that business starts on that pay-to-play platform and then continues and stays there till you're done. You send off the audio and you go on to your next audition. If you're marketing yourself through word of mouth, local marketing, going to business meetups, BNI groups, other kinds of mastermind groups locally, if you're doing a lot of emailing, and all of that marketing funnels people to your website, then I think your website is vital. If you do what I do, which is not focus on finding more auditions every day, but focus on finding clients every day, a website is vital because everything I do sends people to my site. So I think your question is a good one. How important is a website? But the answer depends on how you're attracting new business.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Doug.
I totally agree. Is that how vital the website is completely dependent upon the
Traffic.
well, it's completely dependent upon how you're going about, like what does your marketing plan look like? And Doug, I know that yours tends to be you have a very kind of different outlook when it comes to marketing yourself as a voice talent, and as a result have kind of forged your own way and done very, very well as a result of it. So appreciate your insights for sure.
Sure.
Hey, Doug. John Ford here. Is this the same Doug Turkel I worked with in Miami?
WIOD, John Ford. As a matter of fact, it is. How are you, man?
Yes, sir.
I've got a question for Doug while you're there, Doug. You said going to groups and things like that. I went to 2 or 3 meetup groups, but they seem to be always real estate, insurance salesmen, and financial salesmen. And there wasn't a great amount of business to be had. Do you have a better idea of which kind of groups to go to? Does it depend on the area? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it probably does. And I maybe shouldn't have used those groups as an example. I don't attend those groups anymore because I found exactly the same thing that you do. But I hear from people who focus on doing local marketing and it seems to work for them really well in some cases. But again, for me, my approach has been different for 20 something years, and it has worked because I find it much easier not to look for business in the same places that everyone else does, which these days is the pay-to-play sites. And when I do audition for a client, I would rather it be a client who reaches out to me and says, hey, Doug, we'd like to hear what you would sound like on this spot, in which case I might be the only person auditioning, or maybe they're sending it to 3, 4, 6 people at the most, because they're trying to pick a specific voice for their client. But it's not a situation like so many of these online platforms where there's 80 or 112 or 200 and, I don't know, 37 people auditioning for each gig. So my ROI is significantly better than it ever was on the pay-to-play sites because it allows me, on the pay-to-play sites, you wait and you see who posts a job and you try to pick the ones that are most applicable to you, what you sound like and what you do. In my case, I know exactly what it is that I do best and exactly the kind of work I want to get. So I target the kinds of clients who need what I do. I tailor my marketing so that when it gets to them, they see me as an expert in exactly what they need. And my ROI is significantly better than the audition, send it off, and forget about it platforms that I haven't used in a long, long time.
Doug, so you and I have never spoken about this, but here's my guess of what your business looks like, and you can tell me how accurate I am.
Okay.
I would guess you probably have between 60 and 80 regular clients, of which and 90% of your work comes from those 60 to 80 clients that you've nurtured over the years.
Yeah, I would say your numbers are close. You know what? I honestly don't know the exact number. I could look it up and find it for you, but it's probably a little bit more than that. Some of those clients call me every week. Some of them at the other end of the spectrum call me every 18 months.
So I guess my point is that it's not like there's 10 that you rely on, and it's not like there's 300 people that you are constantly, working back and forth with either. It's like 100 or just under 100 kind of thing.
That's an accurate guess.
Yeah.
The other thing is, the interesting thing for me, I'm lucky that I love the marketing side of it because I lose clients every day. I don't know which ones. I don't know when. They don't call me and say, hey, we're not going to use you anymore. But at some point, I just noticed, hey, I haven't heard from Steve in a long time. What happened to him? And then I realized he hasn't hired me in a year and a half. But I'm always replacing those clients that I'm losing because I'm constantly marketing. So it's a rotating roster of clients. But
right.
Yeah, I think the numbers are pretty, it's pretty fair guess you're making.
And the reason I was able to guess that is because Hugh, who's one of the principals at Gravy for the Brain, which is this British-based training company, that's how he, when he talks about building your voiceover business, he talks about doing almost exactly what you've done, Doug, is that, you should be working on between 50 and 80 clients. And if each of those clients hires you once a month, then you're going to have a fantastic business. And so I'm not surprised that, and I don't think much more than 50 or 80 you'd be able to manage on a regular basis. So that's kind of the magic number that Hugh from Gravy for the Brain mentions as being optimal.
And I just wanted to make a comment on the person who said that they were going to meetings that had largely real estate and some others. But I've noticed a trend in real estate that I live in the middle of nowhere, but I'm not too far off from Lakes Country where people will have some cabins and a few $1 million homes or multi-million, And some of the real estate agents, when they have these top homes, they have been creating fabulous fabulous videos, and they'll get a drone to fly around and they'll do a video tour of the place with voiceover. And I haven't been able to, I haven't worked on landing anything like that. But if the real estate market goes more towards that, some of your connections may help out. I mean, they may actually be interested in it.
Yeah, I've spoken to them about that, but unfortunately, they try to do everything as cheaply as possible.
Of course.
Polite way to say it. So I haven't found there is a huge amount of money in the real estate videos yet, anyway.
I think that the real estate video area is kind of like phone prompts. I mean, if you can find somebody who's going to feed you, you know, $1,500 or $2,000 a month worth of work, then maybe it's worth doing these one-off real estate videos for $100 a pop. But if they're only going to send you, one every month or something, then certainly $100 a piece certainly doesn't. It just doesn't make much economic sense. That's for certain.
Not so much. Someone needs to convince them that audio is of top-notch importance.
Again, I think that most of these, higher end real estate agents are, they probably do have, a number of listings on a monthly basis that would warrant some kind of fairly high end video production as you've described. I mean, even if you got $100 a piece for them, then maybe that's not so, maybe that's not so bad if like I said, they can guarantee you 15 or 20 of them a month. I have a client I do phone prompts for, and I'm embarrassed at how much I get paid per prompt, but they're certainly not very difficult to do. And I normally have a few days to turn them around, so it's not as if I have to drop everything I'm doing to go and do them. And I discovered at the end of my first year working with them, it's like, oh God, I got $9,000 from them last year. It was worth the little bit of effort on a daily basis to do the that handful of phone prompts that came through. So maybe real estate videos might be something similar. Who else has got a question for us tonight? We still have a few minutes to go before we're wrapping up. Lots of good conversation tonight. Lots of good topics.
I want to jump in here with on the theme of websites and digital stuff, and John may counter this. I know there's love-hate with Fivrr and the super low-end voiceover stuff. I don't go down there, but I've been very lucky with an editor. I found a multi-year relationship with an editor that I found on Fivrr, and some web development for other stuff that I've done on Fivrr. And I think one can get a lot done there for not a lot of money. So if you're looking for a basic professional website, you can do worse than those. You're not going to get a lot, but it's one thing off your plate. You don't have to go read books and become a web developer to do it. So I recommend that. Whenever I do audiobooks, I have an editor that I found on Fivrr, and he's quick. He's in exactly 12 time zones away. So I work during the day and he works while I'm sleeping, and I wake up to brand new files, and it's a fantastic way to do it for me. I found it very, very comfortable.
I guess the ethical question I have, Dave, is if we resent the fact that Fivrr is eating up the bottom end of the voiceover business, is it, I don't know. I just ethically wonder, if we're complaining about that, then do we have the right to go and undercut, professionals in the editing and graphic design business, et cetera, by using them? And I'm not judging you. I'm just curious as to how you kind of balance that off.
All right. Fair question. He's more than willing to do it. It's not $1 an hour. It's enough that I like decent results, and we've gone back and forth on some quality control stuff. But if somebody's willing to work for it, if somebody wants to do a voiceover for $5, I've heard some of those. They're total crap. I have no problem with that. But web development typically, and a lot of guys here tonight and ladies have said, I want to update it all the time. You can do a continuing relationship with them, and it's very fruitful for both sides. And I don't know. I don't see it as bottom feeding, Graham.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you. I appreciate you you answering that question. Who else has got something for us tonight? We got time to slip in, one, maybe two more questions.
Well, I'll throw my log on the fire when it comes to website development and maintenance. My experience over the long haul, and I've had a number of businesses now for about 30 years, has led me to now have a number of websites. I'm not yet into the voiceover business, except that I've collected a treasure load of equipment. So when I'm ready, after my studio is built, we'll jump into the pond. But I can tell you that my experience has been excellent with website developers. And where I have decided to go on a monthly contract basis with them, in addition to having them build the site, no matter what platform they use, the SEO work they do on your behalf will really boost that site and the response to the site. I've been really happy with that mode, and I agree with some of the other contributions that when you're an expert in something, you should definitely not try to be an expert in everything. And, your ROI for your time is going to show that. So that's my 2 cents on that topic. When you can't afford it, I would promote that concept.
Hey, Trey, question for you. There's so many SEO scams out there. How do you tell which one is legit?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know that I have an answer for you on that. I have had just a very small number of developers, and they've just been, I found them locally to where I live out here in the greater Seattle area. The one I'm using now has ended up moving back to New Hampshire, but we're still doing our thing. Now, you're exactly right. I've looked at a lot of things, and boy, it's a son of a gun to tell. If you're not an expert, how can you judge the expertise of somebody who says they are? I guess it might be by referral. That's about all I can think of. Good question.
I can speak to that a little bit. I used to develop websites for a living for many years, and Trey and John both. What you want to do is, if you can, of course, get referrals, certainly. But when you decide on someone, after you've gotten your referrals, make sure that you do your due diligence, do your homework, learn what SEO truly is, and get your usernames and passwords. Don't just trust your developer to be able to see everything that they're doing. You need to have a little bit of knowledge and the ability to go in there, go in the back end, see what they're doing. Don't touch anything, be smart, but be informed.
Or maybe hire JD to do your SEO for you.
JD will not do your SEO. He will not build websites anymore. It's horrific being a designer. I'd rather be a client.
Well, so happy to chime in on this one. I am not an expert in SEO at all. I barely know what it is, but I know what it does. However, I have my website through Wix. That being said, Wix has an SEO wizard incorporated into it. Tells you what to put in and suggests what phrases to use and, whatever keywords one is supposed to plug in. And once you do that and, however long passes for all that to process through the system, I get some pretty high SEO readings as far as I can tell anyway. Again, not an expert, but when I type in CLM voiceovers and Google, I'm right there at the top. So
yeah, this area of SEO is it's the Wild West out there. It really is. And I agree with JD and Doug and others who say that SEO and optimizing your website is important, and it's often money well spent, but you have to be judicious in making sure that the SEO expert that you get on board is truly an expert. So with that, we're going to call it a night. Thank you all so much for your attendance. We had a really good turnout tonight and some really good conversations, and I appreciate all of your input very, very much. So until next Sunday, work hard, Have a great week and book lots of work. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, Graham.
Good night, all.